Milwaukee Panthers lose another tough one to the Detroit Mercy Titans, 63-76 at home, lose their third straight game, and now drop to 10th in the Horizon League after being projected to finish top of the conference before the start of the season. This is the Post Panthers Breakdown, sponsored by the UWM Post. I'm the sports editor of the Post, and let's get into it. Injuries have unfortunately been the through line and the major theme of the season for the Panthers this year. They have altered the season since before it even started. John Lovelace Jr., by most accounts, projected to take a big leap going into his senior year, suffered a freak knee injury in practice before the season even began. So, unfortunately, injuries have continued since then as well. Since the season started, Seth Hubbard, who was the leading scorer for the start of the year for the Panthers, around 15 points per game, suffers a shoulder injury, also out for the year, required surgery. Danilo Jovanovic, who through the first half of the year was the most consistent player on the Panthers, no, any given night, he was a shoe in for around 12 to 13 points and like 6 to 7 rebounds. But again, same injury as Hubbard with the shoulder, required surgery, out for the year. And those are three starters, nailed in starters before the year, who are all out for the season. Faison Fields, who made his return in this one after missing 8 games. He's been out for a while. First game back since the new year started on January 1st. Injuries have unfortunately played a role, and it's not the amount of injuries, it's who's getting injured. It's the top players, your leaders on your team as well. It's been tough. Mar Aguilar is the one guy who was projected to start who's been healthy, and his season has kind of been a roller coaster. He's a microwave of a player. When he gets hot real fast. In this one, didn't score any points in the first half. And then at the start of the second half, got it going right away, but then kind of cooled off. Had a quick 9 there, little burst in the start of the second half, but it wasn't enough. And in this one, a lot of mental mistakes, a lot of game losing plays, a lot of plays that make a coach ballistic, turnovers, untimely turnovers. Also, offensive rebounds were an issue. Detroit Mercy came into this game as the top rebounding team per game in the Horizon League, around 37 to 38 a game. Even though Panthers only got out rebounded by 6 in this one, and actually got more offensive rebounds than Detroit Mercy. Seemed like Detroit Mercy really capitalized off those offensive rebounds, and it was a wire to wire win for the Titans. No, it was really tough for the Panthers to play defense, and they also had some lapses on defense that you just can't make if you want to win games, especially off inbounds. There was twice where the shot clock was under 5. Detroit Mercy had it under the hoop and an inbound, and then they ran a simple action to the rim and got an easy layup off that. And the end of the first half was really put that Panthers in the hole. The 12-0 run by the Titans to go into the half. It just can't happen if you want to win a game. And now this loss puts the Panthers in 10th place, only ahead of IU Indy. And this is a winnable game. Detroit Mercy, a program who hasn't had much success the past couple of years, they have more recently. They won like 4 of their last 7 games, which isn't crazy, but for this program, it's an improvement. But yeah, a lot of issues that unfortunately continued from last game where there were also mental lapses. And I was curious to see how the Panthers would come out in this one, energy wise, after such an emotional game last time out. And yeah, last game out was a brutal one. No, down five with around 10 seconds to go. You get the flagrant foul. Josh Dixon, heroics, makes the two free throws and hits the circus three to tie the game with 2.6 seconds left. And then the foul by Chandler Jackson, which looked like an intentional foul with 1.3 seconds left, even though the game was tied at 88 at that point. And then those two free throws that were given up after the foul was the difference. So a very tough loss. Was interested to see how Jackson would respond in this one. I thought he had a decent first half, making some shots, getting to the free throw line as well. Second half, didn't think he had the greatest performance. Some of the offensive rebounds let up were, partly on him. The ball would come to him on a rebound and he'd tip it, and it always felt like the ball ends up in Detroit Mercy's hands, and they are a physical team, one of the more teams with a lot of size as well, which was a tough matchup for the Panthers in this one, and especially for Faison Fields, who hasn't played in 8 games after having an ankle injury. I can't imagine it was easy to come back in this one of all games, especially with the big guys that have down low in that front court, like Colomboy, Jeter, and Maiden, big bodies down low that can cause you fits. I thought the one guy who did pretty well, given those circumstances, was Aaron Franklin, who has become the heart and soul of this team. Aaron Franklin came into the year as, a guy that was at the bottom of the rotation, not really expected to play too much, but because of all the injuries, he has had to really, step up as a leader, as a player. And he's never been a scorer in at this level, but the past couple of weeks he's had to be a scorer, and he's actually done an admirable job at it. In this one, 5 of 6 from the field, and also rebounding the ball. He's had a couple of double doubles. He's only 6'5", listed at 6'5". Coach Lundy last press conference said he was 6'4", and he's playing the center, which is remarkable. And he's not only playing the center position, the four, he's playing it well. I thought he did the best on low against Robert Morris's big guys in this one. So his performance this season has been one of the positives throughout the year. And I would say he was the player of the game in this one, even though the Panthers still lost. You know, yeah, talking about it, the defensive breakdowns couldn't happen, but I thought one positive as well in this one was the Panthers didn't get gashed by the three ball like they did last time out. Last time out, the Panthers really got exposed. They overhelped in that one. And it really was an issue against Cleveland State, but only gave up 5 threes in this one to Detroit Mercy. So I thought it was improvement. They weren't overhelping too much, leaving a good shooter wide open like they were last game. So that is one of the improvements from last game. But overall, defensively, you allow 54% from the field for the Titans. That's not good enough from a defensive standpoint. And this team was never going to be a defensive powerhouse. That wasn't their identity. Their identity was definitely going to be on the offensive side of the ball. But nonetheless, 54%, 76 points isn't terrible, but it's definitely not great. And especially when you shoot 20% from deep, you only make 4 of your 20 attempts, and then you shoot under 50%, under 45%, shooting 44% from the field. Yeah, Stevie Elam had a big game last time out. Couldn't really find his three ball in this one. He did have a tied team high with Sekou Kone with 7 rebounds. You know, Elam is a guard, but he can rebound the ball well, average around 10 rebounds in high school. Excuse me. So this isn't anything shocking, but I think part of his maturation, if the three ball's not being knocked down, is scoring inside more, scoring inside the 3-point line. I think that's something he can improve on going forward. And then Josh Dixon, I don't think he had his best game out tonight. You know, the shiftiest guard on the team, the quickest guy on the team by far. Does tend to give up stuff on the defensive side of the ball, not being the biggest, in height or weight, can get hit on a mismatch here and there, but does bring a spark when he is on, no doubt. Kone, very raw talent. I thought he played one of his better games. He did score a bit more in garbage time, basically, but 10 points, tied Aaron Franklin with the team high in points. Also tied Elam with the high in rebounds with 7, 4 offensive rebounds, which is pretty impressive. But overall, he hasn't hit the level that, maybe he could. He's very raw talent. So if he refines his game, he can definitely be a game changer, but he's still only a redshirt freshman, so he's got a lot of time to grow and develop. Yeah, looking at the other results in the Horizon League, looking at the standings now, there were a lot of upsets around the Horizon League. Robert Morris beating Wright State 72 to 66. Green Bay beating Northern Kentucky off a basically a buzzer beater from Preston Rudiger. I watched part of that game. Cleveland State going and beating Oakland 91 to 78. And Youngstown State blitzing Purdue Fort Wayne, who have been on a downward spiral. And then Detroit taking care of business against Milwaukee. Next up for the Panthers is Northern Kentucky at their place. Northern Kentucky has also been on a bit of a downward trend. They're suffering through some injuries. Their first matchup, Milwaukee versus Northern Kentucky. The Norse just kind of blitzed them from the behind the arc. Kale Robinson, who's been injured for them, hit 9 threes in that one. And then Milwaukee, after that, heads to IU Indy, who's at the bottom. So if Milwaukee can't take care of business against the Jaguars, you can kind of mark the season as finished after that, I'd say. But the Horizon League can lead to some crazy events. No doubt. You can't count anybody out. Horizon is gonna Horizon. But then after that, next home game for the Panthers is their biggest game of the year versus Green Bay. Battle of I-43. Green Bay won the matchup in their first time out this season. Green Bay got off to a big lead. The Panthers gave them a run for their money in the second half, but it wasn't enough. You know, if the season doesn't turn out the way Panthers fans wanted it, a win against Green Bay would be somewhat of a consolation. But of course, the Panthers still want to go far, but with all the injuries, that's a tough ask. And after that, the Detroit Mercy try to get revenge from this one. Then Oakland, that one will be tough. Milwaukee lost to Oakland at home. And of course, we know Oakland, they run their zone. Campy has been coaching forever. What are you going to do? And then Milwaukee ends the year with the Youngstown State. Yeah, a lot of things to improve. A lot of things to improve for the Panthers. Can they do it? We will see next up at Northern Kentucky. Any sort of win would be huge for this team right now, especially sitting at 10th. The season isn't over. You get healthier, you get a Faison Fields back in the mix, another big body, which they've been lacking. You know, Positive things can for sure happen, but it's an uphill battle for Milwaukee. One thing you can't do is make self-inflicted mistakes like not rebounding the ball, turning the ball over, live ball turnovers especially, and poor defensive breakdowns on inbounds or backdoor cuts, overhelping on three-point shooters, tricking open layups that you should make at the rim. Those things can happen if you want to win games when you're dealing with a bunch of injuries. So we will see how it goes next time for the Panthers. Thank you very much for watching. This is the Post Panthers Breakdown.